Hello guys, and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video, I'm going to be showing you guys the ins and outs of foundation. What type of foundation do you need? What tools do you need to apply? Tips and tricks on how to apply it flawlessly and seamlessly. And yeah, this video, as you may know, is part of the beginner series that I have. If you haven't checked it out, go to my YouTube channel page. Yes, and go and check it out. It's in a separate playlist. Right now, there's only 2 videos, but you know, just get ahead of the game. You gotta watch the first video, which is the skincare video. Second video, which is eyebrows and false lashes. Now, false lashes are usually the last step in the process, but I figured those 2 should probably be grouped together to make it a little bit more simple. Before we get into this video, you already know what I'm gonna say. Go hit the subscribe button, hit the bell icon. You know the drill. Let's just go do it. It's October 1st, and we've made it to the best part of the year. I mean, well, the best month in the year. I don't know about the best part of this year because this year has just been kind of like the best month in the year. Yes, it is. I have so many things going on in October, so many things planned, so many video topics, business ventures, whatever you want to call it, all the whole bunch of stuff. I have so much stuff lined up for the month of October, and I am just hoping that everything can be executed in a timely fashion. If you follow me on any of my socials, Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, well, maybe not so much Snapchat, but definitely Facebook and Instagram, you've seen that I am working on a website. I'm working on a lash page, working on a lash business. There's just a lot going on. And I just want to thank everyone from the bottom of my heart who has already supported and who is continuing to support me. Even from when I first started YouTube, like 4 years ago, that disaster. Anyway, everyone starts from somewhere. And I just really, really appreciate the people who are supporting me now, all the way up until I make it to where I want to make it. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. That is enough rambling. Let's go ahead and get into this video. So you have your skincare routine down, you have your brows and your lashes down. Now it is time for the base of your makeup, which is primer and foundation. Let's start with primer. Primer is basically the base of the base, if you get what I'm saying. It is what you put on before you put on any of your other face makeup. The purpose of that is to allow your makeup to stay on your face, not be moving around all over the place. And primers also allow a protective barrier for the skin. I like to use the analogy of painting a wall. So when you paint a wall, you do not put the colored paint directly on the wall first, because over time it will damage the wall. Just the same thing like with nails. You don't put the color polish on first, you put a primer on first, and then it allows it to stick, and it gives the makeup, or it gives the paint or whatever you're using something to adhere to first, so that it's not slipping and sliding around and you're just having a complete meltdown. Most primers have certain properties, like they have color correcting primers, blurring primers, mattifying primers, luminizing primers. Let's start with some of the primers that I have. I'm going to show you a few primers that I have, and I'm going to talk a little bit about them, and maybe that'll give you an idea of what type of primer you might need. I am a primer junkie, okay, because I believe that if you have a decent, good, great, fantastic, fantabulous base, everything else will just fall in order. These are some of the primers that I owned. This is not even nearly half of them. These are some of the ones that I wanted to mention because I feel like these are great examples. So the first primer that I want to talk about is the Maybelline Master Prime, and this is a drugstore primer, and this is the Blur and Smooth priming base. Now this line of primers, because they also have different ones, they have a color correcting primer, they have a moisturizing primer, luminizing primer, mattifying primer, all that just in this one line, the Maybelline Master Prime by Face Studio. They have a few different ones, but this one specifically is the Blur and Smooth primer. Now these primers remind me of the Smashbox primers. I don't know if you've heard of Smashbox, but they are a more high-end makeup company that is usually sold in Ulta, I'm not sure if they're sold in Sephora. Don't quote me on that, but I think so. But I know they definitely are sold in Ulta and obviously online. But this line of products, this line of primers is very, very similar to the Smashbox primers. They're really good primers. Depending on what your skin needs, they probably have something for it. The second primer that I want to talk about is the L'Oreal Paris Infallible Pro Glow. This is an illuminizing primer. So this is the one of the primers. I'm sorry, I said the name wrong. This is the Infallible Glow Lock Primer. It gives your face a little bit of like a backlighting, if you will. So, you know, it plumps up the face, brightens it, adds a little bit of moisture. Yeah, I really, really like this one. My third primer that I want to talk about is from Touch in Sol. Now, this is not a drugstore primer, and I'm not sure if you can get it in stores because I only get them online. So this is the Touch in Sol No Pore Blem Primer. You can go to their website, touchinsol.com, and this is the No Pore Blem Priming Essence, which I'm pretty sure you've probably seen me use a lot. This is the one that kind of like comes out like jelly. These two are great. This is a very lightweight primer. Like I said, it goes on like jelly. They don't have any smell, but I would say this is definitely more so if you have dry skin, if you're looking for something more lightweight but still moisturizing. This is a good one. And this one is definitely like, it kind of does the same thing as the Maybelline Maybelline Master Prime. It is a smooth and pore covering primer, so that means it blurs the pores, smooths out the pores, reduces the appearance of it by just kind of like not clogging it, because that sounds really bad. It doesn't clog your pores, it just kind of goes over it like a covering, basically. All right, and the last one that I want to talk about is the Too Faced Major Hangover. The Too Faced Major Hangover Primer. Now this is a this is a very high-end primer. Probably, I would say the most high-end primer that I have at the moment. And this is by Too Faced, and it is sold in Ulta as well as Sephora. And this is their Protective and Nourishing Primer. So this is a moisturizing primer, very, very moisturizing, and it is silicone free. So this goes on more like a lotion, and the ones that have silicone in it are usually the ones that are like this, that are a blurring and smoothing primer. Whenever you see blur and smooth, just know that it probably has silicone in it, because that is what gives you the very smooth looking texture. Sometimes I will combine this with my silicone primer, because this adds the moisture and the silicone adds that blurring effect to my pores, when sometimes I feel like my pores are a little bit enlarged. So it's kind of the same thing for foundation. Do you have dry skin or do you have oily skin? So it kind of goes without saying, if you have dry skin, you want to go for more moisturizing primers. You want to probably go silicone-free primers, something that is illuminizing, something that is skin plumping, things like that. If you have oily skin, you want to go for mattifying primers. Now, I personally do not own any mattifying primers because my skin is not dry. My skin is normal to oily. So, you know, I've never really needed to use mattifying primers. If anything, if I do need an oil control product, I will use a mattifying setting spray, but that's for a separate video. Anything that says mattifying, oil control, de-shine, anything like that, that is a primer that you want to use. You also probably want to use a silicone-based primer that blurs the pores, because when you have oily skin, your pores tend to show a little bit more. So yeah, those are the two basic ones. Then on the other side of things, you have the ones that do other stuff like color correcting. If you have any redness, if you have dark circles, if you have dark spots, that's where your color correcting primers come in. And I know that Smashbox has color correcting, as well as the Maybelline Master Prime line has color correcting primers. Now, what tools do you need to apply your primer? You have a few options. Honestly, the easiest one, the one that's kind of like a no-brainer, is your fingers. I usually just use my hands to apply primer, but I don't know if you don't. You can also use a brush, something like this or something like this. So this is actually a flat foundation brush, but it's kind of like, as you can see, kind of like a paintbrush. So what you can do is you take the primer and just put it on the places where you need it. And then this is the Real Techniques Expert Face Brush, which this is normally a brush that would probably be used for foundation, but you can use it to apply your primer. Now, when I do makeup for other people, I use this brush and I just kind of use it to, you know, to buff into their skin, because I want to minimize the amount of actually touching of the face that I do, especially now in these COVID times. So just to eliminate the skin to skin contact, I like to use a brush. And if you want to do that on yourself as well, that's fine. You can also use a stippling brush. I don't have one at the moment, but stippling brushes are also good to use to apply moisturizers, primer, stuff like that. I am not the biggest fan of stippling brushes in general, but I have seen it done and it does work. But me personally, I don't like stippling brushes. Now, I'm going to demonstrate how to apply your primer, where to apply your primer. So for today, I'm going to use my Too Faced Major Hangover Primer. And I'm going to start with a very small amount. Now, that is the first thing when it comes to primer. You do not need a lot. This is enough for your entire face. You don't want to cake it on. You don't want to just apply globs and globs of it, because then that's where stuff gets a little bit messy. Like I said, I like to use my fingers, and I like to start by putting some here. I put a dab here. Now, I like to work my way out. So I take both my fingers and I just start because this is where my pores show up the most. So I'll start in the middle of my face and work my way out. And I use slight tapping, pushing motions to just kind of get it into my skin. And I do the same here and kind of just rub it in. Okay, so that's it. Very easy, very simple. That is how you apply primer. That is types of primers that you use, types of primers that I use. You don't need a lot. Sometimes I feel like I need a little bit extra on the outside of my face, especially if it's a moisturizing primer. So I'll put a little bit more on the outside of my face. Now, here is just a tip for primers. There are some primers that I do recommend applying to your face before you do anything. So like sometimes I like to apply my primers before I even do my eyebrows. So then that gives the primer a little bit of time to sit on my face and soak in and kind of dry down a little bit. I find that sometimes if you go ahead and put your primer on and then you throw on your foundation, moisturizer, whatever you use to prep your skin, and then you throw on that foundation, it kind of just mixes and it kind of defeats the purpose of the first layer and all that other stuff. So let your primer dry down first. Let all of your face prep dry down first. If you use a face spray and a primer, if you use just a primer, if you use a moisturizer and a primer, just go ahead and allow that to sit on your face for a few minutes before applying your foundation. Now moving on to foundation. Look, I can understand why some people get super, not necessarily frustrated, but like very confused with foundation. Like, what type of foundation do I need? How do I use it? Where do I apply it? Just what? So to start off with the foundation portion of this video, I am going to talk about the different formulas that they have for foundation. So just like primers, you have moisturizing or luminizing foundation, and then you have mattifying foundation. And then under those two categories, you have subcategories. And those subcategories include foundations that might have SPF in it, foundations that have certain types of oils, maybe have argan oil in it, that have different healing properties, smoothing properties, all types of stuff. But the two basics are mattifying and luminizing or moisturizing foundation. Now, you also have BB creams and CC creams. BB creams are kind of like tinted moisturizer. I like to think of BB creams and tinted moisturizers kind of like the same thing. BB creams tend to have a little bit more coverage than tinted moisturizers. So with BB cream, which is a type of face makeup that I'm a fan of, it gives you it gives you medium coverage, and can sometimes be buildable depending on the type. So this is the BB cream that I love to use. This is my personal favorite. I've been using this BB cream for about 3 years now. This is probably my 4th bottle. And this is a really, really great BB cream. This is from CoverGirl, and now they also have their new line, which is their pretty fresh, pretty clean. I think they're pretty clean line that has way more colors than this line, because this CoverGirl Clean Matte BB cream, this is the darkest shade. My shade, this is the darkest shade that they have. But like I said, their new expanded line of BB creams, a wider range of colors. My only issue with BB creams is because sometimes, at least before, maybe not now because they're working on that, before BB creams, you can only probably find like 2-3 shades. So they'd have light, medium, and dark, and the dark might not even really be your kind of dark. So it would kind of suck sometimes, but I feel like they're definitely expanding on that a little bit more. Now with tinted moisturizers give you sheer coverage, which means it doesn't really cover much. It kind of just evens out your skin tone a little bit. So kind of think of like a colored lip gloss. You know, the colored lip gloss, it goes on to your it goes on your lips, but it doesn't necessarily cover up everything. It's not like a full coverage matte lipstick where you see the color just popping out. It is very sheer, maybe have a little bit of a tint or a hint of color in it. That is what a tinted moisturizer is. One tinted moisturizer that I would recommend is by ColourPop, and it is the Pretty Fresh line, and they have a wide selection of shades as well. So I really like that line. I really like the company. I actually have to go purchase another one because I ran out. But yeah, so they have a very good selection of tinted moisturizers. So now, what type of foundation, BB cream, whatever, what do you need for your skin? If you're the type of person where maybe you don't have too many blemishes, you don't have too much to cover up, or just in general, you don't like to wear heavy face makeup, I would say a BB cream or tinted moisturizer would be for you. If you like a little bit more full coverage, more medium coverage, more of that full face, full glam makeup look, then obviously you'd want to use a foundation. All right, so how to find your shade. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I'm not gonna talk too much about this because even sometimes I still struggle a little bit to find my shade. I mean, I feel like at this point with certain companies, I can kind of eyeball my skin shade. For a beginner, I would recommend going into a store to pick up your shade of BB cream or tinted moisturizer or foundation, because online sometimes the colors online are not at all what the actual color is that you get, and that's for a lot of stuff, but especially with foundations. I could go very deep into this, but I'm not, because it's actually pretty extensive as to how you find your shade. But basically, I would say the easiest and simplest way to match your skin shade is to, when you go into the store, a lot of times, well, maybe not now because, you know, COVID, but before, you used to be able to go into a makeup store and test the foundation and see what your shade would be. A good way to find your shade is to match your foundation more so with your neck than with your face, because a lot of the times the center of your face is lighter than the outside of your face, and that's how you eliminate looking like you have a mask on if you match your foundation to here, so the outside of your face. So just an example, you pump a little bit on and then you put it here on your neck, and you see how it's not, you know, it matches. It's not a huge contrast. I know that if I blend it out, it will blend into my skin. Now, here is an example of what you don't want to do. Here's what you don't want your foundation to look like. And you put it here. And you see that huge contrast as opposed to this? You can barely see it. Like, it's not even blended out and it's already blending into my skin. So this is what you don't want your foundation to look like. This is what you want your foundation to look like. And that is probably the simplest, quickest, easy way to match your shade, because what might look okay in the bottle is not always the same for when you put it on your face. So now, what tools do you use to apply foundation? Now, if you're the type of person that, you don't like to get stuff on your fingers, you want to be a little bit more neat about it, you can use a foundation brush. A little bit onto your brush, and you put it on your skin like that. And that's how you would apply it. On the other hand, you can go ahead and use, you can use your fingers, or you can use the tool that you're going to blend out your foundation with. Now, what tools do you use to blend out your foundation? Once again, if you want to use your fingers, you can use your fingers. I recommend not. That can result in a more splotchy application of foundation, whereas if you use an actual brush or a sponge, it will be a little bit more even. So either a sponge or a brush, and these two are both great ways to apply your foundation. Now, the only thing I will say is, if you have more sensitive skin, I would recommend using a sponge, because sometimes the bristles can be irritating to certain people's faces. And also, maybe if you have more textured skin, so not even necessarily just like acne or anything, but if you have more like maybe some raised bumps on your skin, or, just anything like that, you want to use the sponge, because it really helps to get the product into the skin without, the brush might go over and go in between creases, and it just won't cover the entire face. So just to give you a quick demonstration, this is my Real Techniques Miracle Complexion Sponge. I highly recommend this sponge if you're just getting into makeup. This is a great sponge. There's a lot of great inexpensive sponges out there, but this is like the OG, okay? This is the OG orange sponge. You can get it in CVS. You can get it in CVS, Ulta. You can get it online. It's great. And these are always between $5 and $6. I've never seen them over $6. So on this side of my face, I'm going to use the sponge to show you, and on this side of the face, I'm going to use a brush. So when you use the sponge, you want to make sure that it is damp. So right now, my sponge is damp, and I'm going to show you, this is actually what it looks like when it is not wet, and this is what it looks like when it's wet. So you can see it doubles in size. You want to make sure that it's wet, that it's damp. So you wet it and you squeeze it out. Make sure that it's damp before you apply. So now what you want to do is you want to just take the product and lightly bounce it onto your skin. So you want to use bouncing motions. You don't want to swipe with the sponge, because that'll just make it look streaky. So you want to just bounce the product into your skin, lightly tapping it along like that. And just a tip, you never want to put foundation directly on your nose or directly on your forehead. You want that excess from the sponge and whatever else you put on your face to, you want to use it to spread out, basically. You don't want to paint your face with the foundation, because makeup is about working in layers, and you don't want a super thick layer of foundation, because number one, it's going to make your face feel very heavy and sticky and oily and just gross. And also, that promotes caking and creasing in your makeup, even when you put on powder. So you really just want to take that brush or whatever you're using to apply your foundation and just apply it to right here to the outside of your face, and then just work your way all over the face like that. Make sure you get into that crease, those creases in your nose. And when you're applying, you want to blend down your neck a little bit. And see, that is the importance of finding a foundation to match the shade in your neck as opposed to the shade in the middle of your face. So you're applying it down here so it can be seamless. You see, I don't look like I have a mask on right there. There's no like harsh or sharp split between where my foundation starts and where my skin actually is. You don't want that. You don't want people to know where your foundation starts and your skin begins and skin ends, whatever. So now I'm going to take my foundation brush, and this is from Morphe, and this is the Morphe 439 brush. Before you use it to blend out your foundation, I recommend misting it with either a fixing spray or a setting mist or just a regular moisturizing mist. Today I'm going to use the Mario Badescu spray, Badescu, and I love using these sprays to moisturize my brush. So I just mist it real quick. You don't want it to be wet, you just want it to be damp. And then what you want to do is you want to start going in circular motions over your face. And then if you want to spread it out a bit, you can kind of just take it and go like that. Just using slight sweeping and stamping motions, and then to smooth everything out, you want to work in circular motions. And go over the head like this. Okay. And that's like that. That's how you apply your foundation. Just to go over a refresher of tips before we end this video. If you have dry skin, you want to use a more moisturizing formula. If you have oily skin, you want to use a mattifying formula. If you want full coverage, you know, that full glam face beat, you want to use a medium to buildable full coverage foundation. If you want something more sheer, more natural, you want to use either a tinted moisturizer or a BB cream. To apply your foundation first, before blending it, applying and blending is two different things. So when you're applying your foundation, you can either use your fingers, you can apply it to a foundation brush and apply it to the center of your face, or you can apply it directly onto the tool that you're going to use to blend it out. You can apply it directly to the sponge and just start to blend it out. Thank you guys so much for watching this video. Yes, I did insert a random clip here because the ending to the video that I filmed was cut short and I just did not do it again. So here we are with a random clip from a different video. If you have not subscribed to my channel already, go ahead down below and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell icon so that you never miss any videos from me. Let me know if this video was helpful to you and that the instructions was clear. Also, let me know if there's anything else that you think I should have covered with this foundation segment of my beginner series. Once again, I thank you so much for watching the video. I really appreciate the support and I will see you guys next week.